The following program is a West Tennessee PBS special presentation made possible through the generous financial support of viewers like you. Please visit westtnpbs.org and make a donation today so that we can continue to make local programs like this possible. Thank you.
Tre Hargett was elected by the Tennessee General Assembly to serve as Tennessee's 37th Secretary of State in 2009 and re-elected in 2013, 2017, and 2021. Secretary Hargett is the Chief Executive Officer of the Department of State with oversight of more than 300 employees. He also serves on numerous boards and commissions, on two of which he is the presiding member. The services and oversight found in the Secretary of State's office reaches every department and agency in the state government. We're going to skip to all in the middle here now. Secretary Hargett served in the Tennessee House of Representatives for a decade, representing House Districts 97, which included Bartlett and Memphis, Tennessee, and was twice elected Republican leader by his colleagues. Mr. Hargett earned a BBA in accounting with honors from Memphis State University, as well as an MBA from the University of Memphis. Tre Hargett is a native of Ripley. Secretary Hargett now lives in Hendersonville with his wife Dawn, their two sons, and he is a Southern Baptist and attends the Indian Lake Peninsula Church. Let's give a warm welcome to Secretary of State Tre Hargett.
Gibby, I think we shop at the same kind of place to get our readers.
These are my wife's.
These aren't. I'm a fiscal conservative. If it costs more than $2, I'm not buying. Y'all can be grateful. So speaking about fiscal conservatism, I couldn't help but think about a moment ago when Frank was holding up that check that we just passed for the fourth year in a row a bill that will cut the fees for all nonprofit organizations down to a flat $10. And so that cumulatively in the last 3 years has kept $6 million in the nonprofit world in Tennessee instead of a state bank account. And so now one more year of that. And so I don't know anybody that ever gives money to a charity and says, hey, make sure the state gets some of this. You know, one of the things that we really focus on is trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We started looking at our bank account a few years ago, frankly, and realized we had built up a pretty hefty surplus, close to $7.5–8 million that nonprofits had paid to us. And this was our way of trying to make sure that money got back out to the nonprofit community instead of us having it sit in the bank. So I'm glad to be a part of some of those dollars back around the state. Now, I got some issues. I'm just going to tell you, I had the German chocolate cake. And I'm hoping that I peak during this speech. I don't really decline until I get headed back to Nashville. That German chocolate cake is fantastic. So, but I'm also a little dismayed. My feelings are hurt. Jimmy Youngers and I were sitting up here talking a minute ago. Not one of those junior Rotarians said that we were the greatest influence in their lives.
I told him, Secretary.
They were very impressive young men and women. And for the women in the group, I just want to tell you, I've got two boys, ages 21 and 16. They're single. So I'm trying to coach them up. They're good boys. They have relationships with the Lord. I'm telling you. So I just want to tell you that. And also, I want to introduce a few people. We've got Christian Cervantes, who is our policy assistant, and also our coordinator of civic engagements. Christian standing away everybody. He helped make sure I get here on time today. You know, along with Trooper Aaron back here, and also Doug Cutter is our communications director, traveling with me today. You may recognize Doug. Doug used to be the Speaker Sexton. And we were fortunate enough to get him to come over and work with us, especially during this busy election year. And did y'all know it's an election year? Exactly. So they'll like me back. And also two other people that I get to work with very closely, besides Jimmy Eldridge, who is on our State Election Commission now. Donna Harris is in the room somewhere. So and stepped out of the room. We really appreciate the partnership we have with the library here. And the work that she is doing, and also one of our best election administrators in the state of Tennessee, Lori Lott. So, Laura, they're glad that Madison County was able to coach you and come over here a few years ago. You know, this job as election administrators and election officials, period, has changed so much in the last 8 years. In 2016, things changed whenever at that point, I still remember when President Obama at the time came out and said, I am concerned about the security of elections. And that's a fair statement, but instantly everybody's sense of awareness to it, it created a heightened awareness to that, the issues of physical and cybersecurity awareness. And then not long after that, then candidate Trump, made some claims about the elections and his concerns about if I don't win, then something must have been wrong. And now ever since what we've seen is members of both parties, now they start setting the table early on before the first vote is ever cast and counted about, well, I should win, and if I don't win, there must have been something wrong. And members of both parties have done that over the last several years. And then we saw it again in the 2020 presidential election. We've seen it in midterms, and you can already see now that here in advance of the 2024 election, here we are in March, the election's in November, and both parties already laid the groundwork that, hey, if we don't win, something was wrong. There's no way that we could possibly have lost. And I know Lori has heard this over the years. I know we've got a few other people who run for office in this room. That one of the amazing things to me is after elections, how many people will say, well, there's no way I could have lost because everybody I saw was for me. It reminds me of a story. You probably heard this over the years. Of course, I guess your father was undefeated. And this fantastic legend, not only West Tennessee, but Tennessee politics as a whole. And one of the things that I was amazed by, after I first got elected in 1996, my dad called me that morning. And, my dad's very excited for me and said, well, anybody call you? And I don't know who was expecting to call me. He says, well, anybody call you? And I said, well, a few people called me. And he kept, fishing around. And I said, Dad, what's the question? What are you trying to ask? And he said, I just want to know. I called you, what'd you learn today? And I said, well, I got about 2,700 votes, but 5,400 supporters this morning. So, the day of the election, it's hard to find anybody didn't vote for you. I know as a candidate, what you learn is that people don't always tell you the truth. Mayor, how many people, when you were campaigning for office, we got two mayors in the room, how many people, when you were running for office, walked past you at the polls and gave you the thumbs up or thumbs out, going down? And then back out. Nobody ever looks at you and goes, maybe a few do. And so, it's a very interesting time. And now with social media, there's such an opportunity now to put out misinformation. And it's sometimes on purpose, sometimes it's just out of ignorance. I'm amazed at how people will get their information from someone who has a kid for a profile pic and 79 followers. And we see it all the time. And I'm still waiting for whenever people go on social media and they make these claims about something, and then you call them back, you reach back out to them through direct message or what have you, and you disprove their point and you tell them, here's really what's happening, here's why you're not correct about that. Please help us straighten that out. Nobody ever goes back on social media and says, you know what, I was wrong. Nobody ever goes on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or any of that. Nobody ever says, I was wrong. After further review, I was wrong. And so we're fighting that all the time. And the people who really win in all that are those people who don't want you to trust in your form of government. And especially who really wins in that are foreign adversaries. You've got the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans, from around the world. Our foreign adversaries want you to believe that you cannot trust in the results of our elections. That way they can tell their people and their countries, hey, you think that the United States is a great country, you think that would be a great place to go and they've got it figured out. Look at them, they don't trust their own form of government, and that's what they want you to believe. And so we have to fight that battle over and over and over. And I'm amazed at the number of people, Lori, I know you get this as well. I get it time, yours times 95, all 95 counties. People who will call us and still want to question the results of the elections from almost 4 years ago. One lady in particular from Hamilton County called one day. She was a very nice lady. And she said, well, I've got questions. I said, well, I'll do my best to answer your questions. So we walked through all these things. that she had questions about the legitimacy of the elections and election integrity and what have you. And after about 35 minutes, I felt like I'd answered her questions. And she finally says, you know, you seem like a really nice guy. I thought, yes, okay, thank you, this is going the right way. Then she said, I just don't believe you. And I said, oh man, I said, that's frustrating me. I said, because I've taken the opportunity to answer every of your questions. And you may not agree with me, but I do this every day. This is my full-time job that I worry about, making sure that you can trust in the integrity of elections. Every vote is counted once, no more, no less, and you can have confidence in the results of them. I said, and you will believe somebody you saw on YouTube that you never met in your life was trying to sell advertisements on your YouTube channel. I said, think about that. And so what doesn't get told a lot of times is Lori and her colleagues on the election commission in a bipartisan way are running these elections to make sure you can count on the results of the elections. So that if your person wins or loses, you can have confidence that the results of those elections are legitimate. That's why I'm proud that Tennessee is #1 in the nation in election integrity. And don't take my word for it, take the Heritage Foundation's word for it. That 2 years in a row, they are ranked as #1. We suspect any day in a row, any day now, we're going to be ranked #1 for a third year in a row. And really what, in my opinion, what is the secret and the secret sauce is the bipartisanship and the work together that happens at the state legislature mandates that happens at the legislature. Happens at the election commission. And there are a lot of things we do, whether it's a photo ID law and watermarking paper ballots and not allowing drop boxes and harvesting, making sure that when we buy election machines, they don't have internet capability, that our election machines are not connected to the internet. I repeat, our election machines are not connected to the internet. There's not some server somewhere down in Venezuela that when you push the button or you slide your ballot through the scanning machine, there's not some server somewhere where those votes are being funneled through as some secret algorithm that is taking votes and flipping them from one candidate to the other. Those things don't happen. It doesn't happen in Tennessee, and frankly, I don't think it happens anywhere else in the country. The certification process is a bipartisan certification process, and the results that you see online, on TV, on election night are unofficial. And they are conducted by human beings. And they're conducted by human beings who live here in Madison County. Here in Madison County. You know, we don't bring them in. I guess we did bring one in Proctor County at one point. But you know, these are people that you go to church with, and you see them at the bank, you see them at football games, you see them at the grocery store. These are your neighbors and friends who run your local elections. We don't bring them in from other states. We sure don't bring them in from other countries. You ought to be able to trust in the results of the elections that we have here. And so, I always talk a lot about how important it is that people engage in the process and be registered voters, and then ultimately go and vote. You probably heard me say this before, probably a couple of years ago when I was with you, is going to register to vote without going to vote is kind of like going to a UT football game and stomping and screaming and cheering and thinking you played the game. You're a spectator. I mean, even if you do a mustard bottle of Lane Kiffin, you're still just a spectator. If you want to put the helmet and the pads on, you got to go vote. And Tennessee has some of the lowest voter registration numbers and voter participation numbers in the country. And that ought to bother us. And and some of that comes down to competitive races. Some of that comes down to, though, just people not placing the priority on going to vote. I mean, in March, and I know that both parties' nominations were really sewn up before Super Tuesday, before early voting really even started rolling around. But we had 719,000 people in this entire state go and vote in March. I mean, that's roughly 15% of the registered voters in our state. That ought to bother us. Every person in this room, I'm asking you to find somebody in your family, find somebody in your sphere of influence you can get registered to vote, and then ask them to go and vote. If we just did that, we could go from the bottom of the voter registration, voter participation numbers to the top of the list when it comes to voter registration, voter participation. We are leading in so many other ways in the state of Tennessee. You know, our system of education is on the rise. We are doing great things in the world, especially of higher education. What we've done with Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect, we have destigmatized our Tennessee College of Applied Technology in our 2-year schools, and our 4-year schools are doing well. There are so many opportunities that we have here in the state of Tennessee. We're keeping taxes low, debt is low. We're one of the least indebted states in the country. And all those decisions are being made by the people that we elect. And if you think the state is on the right path, you need to make sure we keep it that way and go vote that way. If you think the state is not on the right path, go vote the other way and vote for a change of direction. But we are better as a society when we all engage in the process. I think we can agree on that. Regardless if you're Republican or Democrat, you need to make your voice heard. And I say that especially for the young people in the room. You know, I suspect that most everybody else in this room voted in the last election. They certainly plan to vote in August, November. But there's a lot of influence in this room. And I'm not just talking about Jimmy Eldridge. There's a lot of influence in this room that if we would take that same influence and use it to encourage people to engage in the process, we could be leaders in the world of civic engagement. We're doing several things that Christians working on our office, where actually there's one school here in Jackson that was recognized a couple of years ago, Jackson Southside, with the gold level award, the Ann Dallas Dudley Award, for their reaching certain thresholds and getting their senior class to be registered voter. Jackson Central Mary won it this year. We're working with high schools around the state to get these 18-year-olds, to get them registered to vote and hopefully get them to go and vote. We've got essay contests going on where later this week we'll be recognizing students from across the state, all the way from pre-kindergarten to high school, who have written civics essay contests about what's important and why civility matters. You know, we've got that going on. We're going to be doing student mock elections in high schools and actually all schools around the state that want to participate in helping them flex their civic muscle and build the habit of being engaged voters. And we're doing lesson plans for our schools around the state where teachers are able to take those lesson plans and incorporate civics lessons into different subject matters, not just social studies. Let's quit confining civics to just teaching of social studies. There are lessons that can be applied in science and math and English and other things too. We got to quit talking about civics and voter participation about like it's just something off to the side that we talk about, you know, once every 4 years. We've got to build the next generation of citizens who know how important it is. And one of my frustrations, especially I'm talking to especially young people in the room who I hope will be registered voters and vote, is I hear from some people about, yeah, it just wasn't important enough to me to go vote, or I couldn't figure out where to go vote, my vote doesn't matter. But if we told somebody, hey, there's Taylor Swift tickets hidden somewhere here in Madison County, everybody'd be out there with a flashlight at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to find them. But we got 2 weeks of early voting and election day, and we can't find people who will go and take 20, 30 minutes to go and vote. We put more research a lot of times in the type of phone we're going to buy next to the candidates we're going to vote for. You know, think about that. And we're very passionate. We want everybody to be an educated consumer to vote and engage in the process. So we're working a lot on that during this election year. And so those elections matter. And a couple of stories I'm going to tell about that, and I promise I'll move on to a couple of things, but y'all just caught me on the right day. Where at LCC State University a few years ago, we're doing a big voter registration drive. And this guy strolling across campus, and I asked him, I said, are you registered to vote? And he said, no, I'm not registered. I said, well, come on, 2.5, 3 minutes. We get you registered today. You can be able to participate in the process. Throws up his hand, looks at me and says, I don't do politics. And I look back at him. I never had said this before in my life. I said it that day. I've repeated it probably hundreds of times since then. I said, you can say you don't do politics. Politics will be done to you. All right? The decisions that are being made at all levels of government are being made through the political process. And just because you don't go vote doesn't mean all of a sudden those decisions aren't magically being, or somehow aren't magically being made. Those decisions are being made. Now I had another story. I was at Michael State Community College trying to encourage a young lady to go and vote. She's roughly 18, 19 years old. She looks at me, she says, yeah, I'm just not going to vote. And guys, I've already told you I've got 2 teenage boys. I try reverse psychology. And I said, good, you shouldn't. And she kind of rocked back and said, I can't believe you said that to me. And I said, I'm just trying to be agreeable. I said, but the bottom line is, when you don't go vote, you hand the power to me. I said, you're 18 years old, and I'm the Secretary of State. You get 1 vote, and I get 1 vote. I said, you can add to mine, I can add to yours, we can cancel each other out. But I said, you don't go vote. What you have done is you've given me the opportunity to have all the power in our form of government. You have none. I said, if you want to give that to me, go ahead and give it to me. And I'd like to think she ultimately went to go and vote. I don't know if she did or she didn't. But the bottom line is that we are going to have an election in August. We're going to have one in November. And if you think you're better off by giving that say to other people and taking that out of your hands and hand it over to other people, then that's up to you. But shame on you if that's what you're going to do. And the fact that Tennessee got to be a low-tax state, a low-debt state, decisions have been made over generations of being a conservative, fiscally run state to keep us that way. And we're always just one election away from losing the things that have made Tennessee such a haven for people who are coming from other states, who are moving here in droves because we're erring on the side of freedom and liberty in Tennessee and telling people, when you come to Tennessee, you get to keep more of what you earn. You get to have more of your freedom and liberty protected. And as I walk out to the halls, I hear voices that I can tell they're not from Tennessee a lot of times. And I'll ask them where they're from. And they'll tell me Michigan or Illinois or Oregon or Washington or California. And I'll say, well, tell me what brought you here. And they said, I want a better quality of life for me and my family. I was tired of my family being taxed to the point that we couldn't realize the American dream. Here in Tennessee, the American dream is still alive and well. Okay? But it takes effort. It takes all of us being engaged. It takes all of us making one another better. And I'll never forget one time what Lamar Alexander said to me. Lamar, I was in an event one evening, and we were talking, and I was the new Republican leader in the House of Representatives. And Lamar Alexander said to me, and it seems so prophetic now, today, especially with social media and how we treat one another, he said, Democrats and Republicans ought to be making each other better instead of fighting one another. He said, if Democrats have an idea, he said, Republicans ought to be trying to figure out how to improve that idea, make it better. He said, and then Democrats ought to turn back around and try and figure out how to improve on that Republican idea. And so on and so on and so on. We've got to get back to the point where there's a competition for ideas and not just a competition for clicks on the internet. And how many likes we get on Instagram, and how many likes we, and hey, I got new followers. I got newsflash for you. You may have followers, you don't have to be friends. I think if I look on Instagram right now, I get like 11,000 or 12,000. How many followers do we have on Instagram?
You're just under 10,000.
Just under 10,000. I don't have that many friends. Half those people want to see me fail. So, we got to figure out what's real and what's not and govern accordingly. And so I mentioned about being low taxes and low debt. Let me drill down a little bit on how we run our office in the Secretary of State's office. I'm in year 16 as Secretary of State. And it's gone by in a hurry. And I've seen times where I felt like we were getting it right, and times where I felt like we were getting it wrong. But the one thing we're trying to figure out each and every day is how we serve our customers. How we make sure, wow, I need to wrap this up now. How we make sure that each and every day we give you $1 or more in value for every dollar you pay in taxes. That sounds pretty simple. We just need to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and recognize, and of time, by the way, because nobody comes to a state office building and says, Trey, I just brought a sack lunch, I'm going to hang out with you for a while. Nobody ever calls and says, Trey, I love the whole music, put me back on there. You interact with state government because you have something that you need from us, you want us to get done, and if you really want us to get the heck out of your way for the least amount of money possible, the least amount of time possible. And we're trying every transaction, every process to figure out how we can do better for you. Not just how, we've done some of that and figure out how we give some of the money back to the nonprofit community. Guys, we're, in the money that's appropriated to me in my budget each year, we're putting well over $2 million back in the general fund that we're choosing not to spend. We've gone from 445 funded positions to 355 funded positions. I think I got 306 people on the payroll today. We're doing more with less than we ever had before. We've created programs that are going to touch the most vulnerable Tennesseans through our Safe at Home program that is an address confidentiality program for those who have been victims of sexual abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking. Now we're taking a step forward, and I hope that our business leaders in the room will hear me when I talk about this. We've created a new Tennessee business against trafficking program that is going to help businesses engage in the fight against human trafficking, where we're creating a training program that you can show to your employees to get them to see the signs of human trafficking and then know what to do when they see it. Human trafficking is the second fastest growing criminal activity in our country, behind only drug trafficking. And Tennessee is a long state with lots of interstates. And so we're seeing a lot of that come through here. And it doesn't just happen in major cities, it's happening across our state, even the smallest counties in our state. And so we want to have programs like that where we're engaging the fight, and we're doing it for less money, and we're doing it with less people. And that's the type of state government I think that you have come to expect from our department and come to expect as a whole from the state of Tennessee, is trying to figure out how we can be responsive to the things that we can make a difference in, and then also get the heck out of the way for the things that we can't, so we use our bandwidth appropriately. So I'm proud to continue to be your Tennessee Secretary of State. Hopefully I'm gonna get the opportunity to do it 4 more years starting in 2025. If any of you see Ed Jackson, tell him you'd appreciate if he would send me back. By the way, he wanted to come today. Obviously he's in session. I saw him right before I left. He sends his greetings. You know, my goal, what I said when I interviewed for this job back in late 2008, and I got elected in January 2009, is that I wanted to be the best Secretary of State we've ever had. I interview for this job every day. Every day is a job interview. Some days, guys, I'm glad the hiring decision wasn't made that day. But we're going to keep on charging hard, whether we get just a handful more months or we get another 4 years after this. Because I believe you deserve the best. I believe your families deserve the best. And we want to make sure Tennessee continues to be leading the nation in the ways that we serve our fellow Tennesseans. I try to leave a few minutes, and you do a very good job, Melinda. Can I take some questions?
Take some questions.
Thank you.
Questions, yeah.
Y'all always have questions when I come. Last time I took a question, I was quoted in a federal court decision recently, so you never know. Yes, sir.
I do thank you for coming. You have a comment and question. Lane Kiffin absolutely deserves the mustard bottle and the golf ball. Just want you to understand. The question is this. We had an election a couple of years ago in which Democrats and independents were urged to vote for the Republican primary. It's my understanding that that's against the state law. Do you mind explaining the state law to us as far as elections are concerned and what the basis is?
It feels like deja vu all over again, because that happens, you know, I was here 2 years ago and that subject came up. So if primaries are for members of that party, if you believe you are not a Democrat, you should not be voting in the Democrat party. If you believe you're not a Republican, you should not be voting in the Republican primary. Just like if you play defense for the Alabama Crimson Tide, you don't belong in DUT huddle. Okay? There's a law that passed that courts recently dismissed the lawsuit on, that places a sign at every polling station that says that, you know, you're supposed to only vote in the primary of which you are a member of that party. I don't know anybody that's ever been prosecuted under that law. I don't know that anybody's going to be prosecuted anytime soon over that law.
What if you're an independent?
The primary,
You don't vote for anyone?
the primary is not for you. I mean, if you want to align with one, if you decided that you want to align with one of those parties, then you can do that. But I mean, truthfully, if in your heart you believe you're an independent, you're not supposed to vote in the primary. The primary is for the members of those parties to pick their nominees, is what it's for. There are those who will say, well, my race is really being decided in the primary. You know, if I have to wait to the general election, then the race is already decided. I don't know what to say to that. You're supposed to go vote in the primary which you're a member of that party. But we have what's
People sign up to be a member of the party.
whenever people probably realize this, when you go to vote, when you sign that form, you are declaring your allegiance to that party. People may not realize that, but when you say that you want to vote the Republican primary, that piece of paper you're signing says that you're declaring allegiance to that party. So if you voted in the last primary and you tell somebody you're independent, you're really not independent. You've already told everybody you're a Democrat or Republican. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Secretary, thank you for being here. Question is, we've got federal, state, county, city, constable. We've got a lot of districts. Will you make a pitch for the Go Vote Tennessee app?
Thank you very much. I did a very good job of that today. So we have what's called the Go Vote 10 app. It's available for free on the Google Play or Apple Store. Also, it's available just on our website, govote10.gov. You can download that. It will tell you when you can go vote, where you go vote. If you're already voting on election day, you can even look at a sample ballot that's unique to your own address. It gives you all kinds of great information about the election process. And so I encourage people to use that to be a prepared voter when they get ready to go vote. Also, I would encourage you, if you feel so led, we've got a Your Vote Matters program that we're trying to get people engaged through the business community and nonprofit community. There are going to be people, especially as we get closer to November, who are going to tune me out and think that, hey, anything I say has some type of partisan slant to it. You have your own respective spheres of influence. We want to push trusted information out around the state to make sure people have that same information that's on the app and also understand voter registration deadlines, other pertinent information so they can be prepared voters. Yes, sir.
Trey, I frequently hear people say, I'm a registered Democrat or a registered Republican. Do we have voter registration by party in this state? Because you do in other parts of the country, I know.
Yeah, great question. So just up to the north of Kentucky, you register by party. Now, you can before the election, you can change your registration. In Tennessee, the only time that you make your party affiliation known is voluntary, or whenever you go to the polls, you say, I want to vote in this primary, and you sign the slip of paper saying that you are a member of that party. But there is not a party registration process per se in Tennessee. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. One more, we're done.
Some of the numbers that you gave for voter turnout in Tennessee is shocking, and I know you gave some stories, but I was just curious. To me, 50 to 60%, it seems like there will be other reasons besides just not caring. So for you, through you all's research, what do you find as other reasons why people may or may not vote?
I say not caring. I also mentioned there's people who look and they think their vote doesn't matter. They think that the person they're going to go vote for is either going to win going away and doesn't need their vote, or the person they might vote for is going to lose and their vote is not going to matter. I also think that people just don't place a priority on it. I think especially, if you look at voter turnout numbers, the younger the voter, the less likely that person is to turn out. And so if people feel like candidates aren't talking to them about their issues, they might feel like there's not a reason to go vote. I know what I read is that there's people out there who are very frustrated with the political process and say that they're not going to engage in it. And that might cause apathy as well. One thing is for certain, and I'm kind of sensitive to this. We catch a bad rap on this in the Secretary of State's office from time to time. How many of you watched the Super Bowl? Okay, a lot of people. And pretty competitive game, wasn't it? You probably watched the Super Bowls before. It was a blowout, and it might have been on in the house, but everybody was doing something else, or eating buffalo wings, or doing something else. They weren't watching the game. How many of you have ever tuned in to the game for the referees? Everybody raise their hands. Yeah, you don't. So, for us it's frustrating. We want every Tennessean who's eligible to register to vote and go and vote. We do all these different things to make it as easy as possible for people to register and go cast their vote. And it's frustrating for us when people don't show up. I think one of the reasons people don't show up can be a self-fulfilling thing as well, is that, if you're running for office, when you're sending out mail, you mail to likely voters. Or even maybe somewhat likely voters. If there are people who are on voter registration rolls and never go and vote, by and large, you quit tailoring your message to those people. You're not running Facebook ads trying to target those people. You're not sending out mail. You're not making phone calls. And so then the person who hasn't been a voter in the past continues to not be a voter. So I think it's incumbent upon candidates and parties to sell themselves to get people to want to go to the polls. And with that said, I appreciate your time and courtesy, and I look forward to my next visit back to Jackson.
The program you've been watching was made possible through the generous financial support of West Tennessee PBS viewers like you. Please visit westtnpbs.org and make a donation today so that we can continue to make local programs like this possible. Thank you.